So guys, it is 2018, and the feature to have on every smartphone, it seems, is the notch. So the iPhone X came out with a notch last year, and now it seems like every other smartphone wants to have a notch to stand out and be the top-notch phone of 2018. But I want to give my opinions on the notch, what it is, what it allows your phone to do, and just some other things. So the notch, I think, first started back in, I don't know, 2014. The Sharp Aquos Crystal was a smartphone a little bit ahead of its time. It was a bezel-less smartphone until you look at the bottom. It had a huge chin. So while that wasn't a notch, I think that's kind of what jump-started this race to a bezel-less smartphone. And what came next, in my opinion, obviously there were some other phones along the way, but the Essential phone was like the next phone on the way to a bezel-less smartphone. It didn't have a notch on the top, but it had a little spot cut out for the camera, and then the chin was still there, but not as big as the Sharp Aquos Crystal. And then next in the lineup was the iPhone X. So the iPhone X basically had a completely bezel-less smartphone. I understand the bezels are still there a little bit, but then we get the notch. So the notch is what allows us to have the bezel-less smartphone, because we don't have the technology to put a camera behind the glass. We don't really have the technology yet to put all the sensors behind the glass. So that's why we're seeing these notches. And we're also seeing manufacturers come out with unique ways to kind of go around this notch. So Vivo, they made the Vivo Apex, where they actually put the front-facing selfie camera that pops up. So that's pretty cool, and that allows us to basically take the Essential phone. We could remove the front-facing camera and then put the camera behind it, make it pop up, and then we have a bezel-less phone. But it seems like a lot of these smartphone manufacturers these days, they are making this notch, but they're not seeing the point of it. If your smartphone has a notch, it better have a completely bezel-less design. And it seems like the iPhone is the only person or the only company that's gotten that correct. So the reason that Apple was able to produce a notch and then produce a bezel-less chin at the bottom, what they did, if I'm understanding correctly, they have an OLED panel, and they actually did it like this and then curved it around at the bottom. And then all the display drivers are kind of nestled in between the OLED panel that's curved. Whereas it seems like a lot of other smartphone manufacturers are just having a chin at the bottom. So I don't understand why they can't combine the same technology that the iPhone's using to do that curved OLED panel, combine that with a selfie camera that pops up, and now you no longer have a bezel at all. It seems like all these bezel-less smartphones still have something. It's either a notch or a chin. Nothing is completely bezel-less quite yet. And some of the Android manufacturers that have opted for the notch, we have the Zenfone 5, we have the LG G7, and we have the Huawei P20, I believe. So, and all of them did notches, and while the notches may be smaller than the iPhone notch, they have a bigger chin at the bottom, so that kind of defeats the purpose. Why wouldn't you just use the chin and put all the stuff down there and not even have the notch? You know, like if you're gonna have a chin, just put the camera down there and put all the sensors down there and just cut the notch off, make it completely bezel-less at the top, like the Sharp Aquos Crystal that I first talked about in this video. So what the notch is allowing us to do, and all these other crazy inventions, is basically get us to that point where we have a completely bezel-less smartphone. And I think the Sharp Aquos Crystal started it. So I think the Vivo Apex right now is the closest we've gotten so far to a completely bezel-less camera. They don't have the notch. They have the front-facing camera figured out, but the bottom has a slight chin. So if they could take Apple's technology where they fold the OLED panel around, figure out where to put some of the other sensors at, I think we would have a winner. But then at the end of the day, what is the purpose? Do we really need a completely bezel-less phone? What does that solve other than it's just like the master race to a bezel-less phone? You know? Sure, it decreases the size in your hand, the size in your pocket. You can get a bigger screen with less body. But really, at the end of the day, does it really matter that much? It seems like it does today. Like, that is where every smartphone manufacturer is trying to go. But, you know, let's not forget specs that really matter. Let's not forget about storage space. Let's not forget about battery life, which that needs a huge overhaul one of these days when the technology allows it. All right, guys, that is all I got to say about this. What do you think about the notch? Do you agree with me? Is it just a building block to a completely bezel-less phone? Do you like the notch? Are you indifferent to the notch? Do you hate the notch? Maybe you'll buy a Galaxy S9 because they're not doing the notch at all. And if you think this video is top notch, make sure you give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Hope you guys have a great day. Bye.